breath.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
this looked like you were trying to get something out of yourself there. Are you okay?
I'm easing in, man. I'm ready to go. Let's rock and roll.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural episode of Saturday Night Slashers here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. My name is Matthew, joined by my very anxious and excited compadres here. Ladies first, joining. Is this the first time you've been on Outpost Unknown, Heather? Is
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Heather, co-host number one. How are you today?
Hello. I'm good.
Are you
I'm very good.
are you excited to do this show?
I am excited.
Okay.
I'm a little anxious. I feel like my history in horror is probably a lot less than you guys. You probably started at a young age, or younger at least. I didn't start watching anything horror until I was probably late teenage years, except for the time that I convinced my grandma to let me watch like some alligator farm thing when I was really little.
At first, no one believed it. Now, no one will forget. Alligator.
Which my parents didn't know about.
Okay.
I think that's what it was called.
Well,
I was little.
this is actually really cool because it's nice to have a voice on the show that can, Josh and I have been seeped in this stuff most of our entire lives. Like we've seen these movies, and so having somebody who doesn't, isn't sort of as immersed in it can bring a fresh perspective. So I think it's going to be really cool to have you on the show. And for the people out there, let them know, like, what do you do in the independent film world? Like, what is your role?
Yeah, so ironically, even though I haven't been steeped in horror all my life, I ended up finding out I really love working in special effects for horror movies. Not just horror, it's other movies as well, like makeup and props and all that stuff, but a lot of it is going to be horror stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
So you worked on,
making people bleed.
yeah. So you've worked on films of mine. Maybe I'll throw in a clip here of some of your work in the eyes of that movie that shall not be named. And then you've worked on
Good ones.
yeah. And then you've worked with Josh on the Pig Face. Was it quadrilogy now? Is that what
It's
we're-
trilogy. It's trilogy.
Trilogy.
And you can watch those on
But
YouTube.
there's some shorts. There were some shorts over the years too.
Yeah.
Like I think it's been like what 12 to 13 years that I've known you guys.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, local film director extraordinaire is Josh. How are you doing?
Subtract that extraordinaire. Edit that shit out. No extraordinaire. I'm doing great. I said I'm excited to do this show. I'm excited to jump in here and talk about the slasher stuff and do something cool with you guys. So especially Heather. Getting on and talking slasher films with Heather. I never get to talk to Heather. I'm excited to talk to Heather.
Oh yeah, we never talk. We don't ever like message all the time about stuff.
Yeah,
Or, like,
just once,
film
once in a great
Never.
while. So
What is Saturday Night Slashers? Well, this is a new show, like I said, here on Outpost Unknown, where we're just going to talk about slasher movies. I have no idea how often this is going to come out. Could be once a week, could be once a month. Who knows? There's no set schedule. It's just whenever our busy lives can kind of line up and get together to discuss this kind of stuff. So I kind of wanted to do a show about slashers because I love slashers, but I kind of realized that I don't exactly know what a slasher is. And so one of the things I wanted to do with this inaugural episode, we're not going to talk about a specific film, because normally our format will be we each pick a movie. So Josh picked a movie called The Jester, for example. It's going to be coming up on an upcoming episode. And he and I just chatted for like an hour and a half about this movie called The Jester. In 1 week, Heather might pick, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and then we will sit there and talk and do a deep dive on A Nightmare on Elm Street and things of that nature. So it'll be, a different show or different focus spotlight on a slasher film, or perhaps not a slasher film. That'll be part of the discussion. Is this thing that maybe might be marketed as a slasher film? Is it actually a slasher film? What is our own definition of what a slasher film is? Because I think many people have an idea, but horror is so big that, and I think the genre has evolved so much that now different things are starting to filter in. As you become more and more creative, you got to push the boundaries. You got to go beyond the typical tropes, and we're going to discuss all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, and at the end of this episode, after we've given our definition and discussed what we think a slasher film is or should be, we are going to give our favorite slasher films. Now, originally it was going to just be 5, but all of us have more than that. So we'll probably just throw out various stuff to end the show. And once again, if you're interested in this kind of content, you want us to do more, hit that like and subscribe button or stab it. Stab it, slash it, whatever you need to do. And if you have an idea for a slasher film that you think that we should watch down the road, leave a comment down below and we will cover it in a future episode, because we are here for our one viewer. Whoever you may be, we are here to please you. So there we go. Do you guys have any thoughts, comments before we dive into what our own definitions of slashers are?
Nothing other than Matt. You start.
Oh, okay,
Go.
okay. They want me to. Why? Why does it have to be me, Josh? Why?
Because
You
you're a
Well,
leader.
I figured, you're the host of the show. It's your house. I'm not, I try not to be a rude guest. So while I'm a guest in your house, you go
All right.
first, my friend.
Okay. So, all throughout today, this morning, the afternoon, and as I was eating dinner tonight, preparing for the show, I'm sitting here thinking, like, what are the elements of what defines a slasher? The horror genre has all kinds of different stuff, right? We got ghosts, we've got monsters, we've got, psychological thrillers. Is Hannibal Lecter a slasher? That kind of stuff. It can get all jumbled up, and I'm like, what is the actual definition? What would I consider a definition? And so I came up with a number of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that I feel makes a film a slasher film. Now, I'm going to do a caveat to this, because even as I was writing these things out, I was thinking of examples that I still consider slashers that don't fit a particular one of these. And so what I'm going to say is, I think if a film has a majority of these things, of these 6 things, like say 4 out of 6, then I can logically, plausibly argue that it can fit into the slasher subgenre. All right. So my very first thing, a voyeuristic element to it. So this could be a subjective point of view camera where you're looking through the eyes of the killer as they're stalking somebody. It could be the male gaze. This is where you get your scantily clad or nude women or shirtless muscled men. And the camera's just kind of lingering on that sort of that exploitation of the human body, that voyeuristic. We want to look at these pretty bodies. That's what we're doing. Whether it's the killer or whether it's the audience, I think that's a major component of a slasher film. Not that stuff can't be in other types of genres, subgenres within horror, but for the slasher, I'm going to put that in there. My second one, primarily young, attractive individuals. We're looking at high schoolers or college age. Adults get killed in these as well. Get your old people, your adults, but they die, but they're not the focus. The focus is a group of young, attractive teens or early 20-somethings, and they're the ones that are the focus of the story. Typically speaking, they are the ones that are sort of anti-authority, right? So they're the ones out having sex and doing drugs and drinking and doing the stuff that they're not supposed to, what we all did when we were young people.
You can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin.
Because we're now old. We're all really, really old right now talking about this. So, third thing, killer. The killer either is a human or has been established to be a human at some point in time. And the reason why I put this in here is because, you know, you get your last, 6, 7 Friday the 13th movies, and Jason Voorhees is just an undead zombie at that point. He's not a dude running around slashing people. He's come back supernaturally, and but I would still consider those slasher films. So I would state that the killer, it can't just be some monster from outer space or something doing the same thing. It's got to be some sort of human being or somebody who was human at one time and is now gone to a different supernatural realm, like Freddy Krueger, right? He's something else. He's no longer just a dude anymore. My fourth thing, killer wears a mask. Okay, now it's either a physical mask like Michael Myers, right? Classic. Everyone knows Michael Myers. Could be the psychological mask, right? So Freddy Krueger does not wear an actual mask, but his face is all burned up and nasty, and that's kind of like the mask that he wears. Or it could be somebody who does not wear a mask at all, but they're hidden for the majority of the movie. So I'm thinking like Black Christmas, right? You know, the killer does not wear an actual mask, but you see his eyeball looking through and leering at people and stuff like that, or the heavy breathing. So the mask is obscured in some way, whether it's a cinematic filmic technique or it's a literal, hey, we're going to put this little girl in a Greek tragedy mask and she's going to run around chopping people up, sort of thing. My fifth thing, primary mode of dispatching people needs to be up close and personal.
Knives and stabbing weapons.
Typically, we don't have guns. You know, I understand that some slasher filmmakers have sort of, you know, pushed the envelope. I think Art the Clown, doesn't he shoot somebody in one of the movies or something like that? But typically speaking, that's what the slasher does. Slasher wants to get up close and personal with their victims, whether it's drilling them, hacking them with an axe. They don't want to be far away and shoot them with a gun. They want to be up close and personal. And then my last thing here, number 6, and there might be more that I just didn't think of, so I'll be interested here if you guys have any additionals here. The stories usually center or end, I should say, not necessarily center, but they end with a final girl, a final guy, something of that nature. So you're looking at traditionally it's been a female lead. She's the virginal person who does not smoke, does not drink. However, you know, because she does not engage in all of these, you know, risque, taboo sort of things for someone her age, she has the power to overcome the slasher, who is essentially kind of like the avatar for punishing young people for doing these morally objectable things. Now, does that work in every single slasher? Absolutely not. But typically, how I think of a slasher, that's kind of what I think of. And so those are my 6 things that I sort of came up with. Heather, I'll toss it over to you. Do you agree with those? Disagree with those? Do you have any additional things that you'd like to add to that list?
Yeah. So I also was thinking about this for the last couple of days, kind of polling people in my family, getting their ideas. I was playing devil's advocate a lot, trying to like push them on why they thought one thing was a slasher and one wasn't. Took some notes. So I'm just going to kind of go through them here. So slasher, to me, it's a good old hack and slash. It's a slasher. It's violent, it's graphic, you know, really over the top things that aren't typically going to ever happen in real life. Their weapons of choice is melee. It's all close kills, brute force. A lot of the times, if it's not a melee, it's going to be, you know, brute force. They usually never have a firearm, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't have a chainsaw or something else like that. Because it's going to be that up close kill. Now, you know, one could say, well, what about when Jason uses a harpoon gun?
Hey, now cut that out right now. That's not funny.
Yeah, okay, fine. But again, usually, I agree. Usually, the killer's usually masked. They have like a revenge motive often.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Um, so those kills are usually personal. They're up close and personal. It's revenge. They will hide their victims for later discovery, which often leads to
Ah,
those jump scares.
that's good. I hadn't thought
Uh,
of that. Yeah.
they're, they're foreboding. They're typically hard to kill, but it doesn't mean that they can't be killed or can't be stopped. They might have some sort of weakness, whether it's Freddy, if people don't believe in him, it's a weakness. Jason, his mother, is a weakness. So they might have a weakness that might slow them down and deter them, but it's not going to necessarily kill them. However, the final girl, she has a tendency to somehow be able to either outsmart them, or in some case, it's typically going to be an outsmarting, but they're able to take them down, even if it's temporarily. My victims, so they're they almost always know each other, but sometimes they can be strangers that are thrown into the same group. But Cabin in the Woods said it best. They all have their different archetypes.
The hair dye.
Dumb blonde, very artistic.
They fit into these groups. Sometimes it's a loose fitting into it, but they fit into these groups for a reason. There's going to be your comic relief. There's going to be your jocks and whatnot. All of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They almost always split up, even if it's the stupidest idea ever. Um, they're moral stories. So when people are doing things that they shouldn't, then they're usually the ones that get taken out first. What's the opening couple? It's almost always a couple in every slasher where they are having sex or something like that, and then they're taken out first. And then of course the final girl. There's always a final girl. She's she has virtue in some way. So yeah, my list pretty much mirrors yours for the most part.
I like that. You added some stuff that I hadn't really considered. Like, I love the fact that like people they're always splitting up. Scream said it best, right? Well, they run up the stairs instead of out the front door.
Mhm.
They're always getting
Yeah.
trapped and isolated in certain
Mhm.
situations that allows sort of like the tension of the killer coming up and
Mhm.
stalking them and stuff because there's safety in numbers when it comes to a slasher
Mhm.
film. If you think about it, if all these people just stuck together for the most part, they're going to be okay, but they always split up.
Yeah.
So awesome, awesome ideas. Josh, what do you got?
I should have followed Matt because now I got to follow Heather and I'm gonna suck. That was really good, Heather. I mean, I have, to be honest with you, a lot of the same, kind of things on my list. One thing that we kind of didn't really talk about yet, is every slasher really takes place in an isolated location, a cabin in the woods, a Camp Crystal Lake, anything like that where, your cell phone doesn't work, or you can't run to
Oh yeah.
any nearby road to escape quickly. So an isolated location. We've talked about the final girl, but we haven't talked yet about the opening kill, usually girl, where there's always an opening kill to a slasher film, usually a female. Um, um, and it always sets the tone for your slasher. Really, what your killer is all about, what he uses, how he kills, or how they kill. So the opening kill girl, to me, is just as important as the final girl, and how it ends. It sets the tone. Um, One other thing, that's kind of new, really, to me anyway, or one thing that I really look for in a slasher film is I personally like a really good twist. Um, I want to see something made that does not allow the audience to get ahead of it and um, gets you all the way to the end and then just completely throws something crazy in the mix that you never saw coming. Those are the films that I really enjoy, and the slashers that stick with me are those crazy films with a twist in the end. Um, Otherwise, you guys kind of covered really everything that I look for as well. Um,
I think there's a couple other things. Just piggybacking off what you said, because what you were talking about kind of sprung a couple more into my thing. When you're talking about the final girl that dies at the beginning, a lot of times when I'm thinking of a traditional slasher film, getting to your point, Heather, the sort of the moral component to it, oftentimes it's a practical joke gone awry, right? So it is like Terror Train, or the opening kind of like prologue is they're going to play a prank on someone, something goes horrible, or something like I Know What You Did Last Summer, right? They hit
mhm,
somebody and they try to hide the body. A year later, that person comes back for revenge. I love what you said. That there's a mystery kind of component and twists and turns to it. I think a really good slasher needs to be able to, where the audience is like, who is the slasher, right? Like, who is the one doing all of this stuff? And I think that's a holdover from giallo films of the 1960s and 70s, when it was like a murder mystery, when someone was going around killing people, but there's that murder mystery component to it. And then the other thing I think, just remembering what you said, Heather, is the kills themselves. When I think of a traditional slasher film, I kind of think of, what am I there to see? Like, I kind of want to see people die, right? And I want to see them die in gory, creative ways. I want to see the Tom Savinis of the world like spewing blood out of necks and machetes and heads, and kind of that weird, like, why do we enjoy watching this? I don't know. It can be fun, where it's totally cool, but then it could be mean spirited, where you're like, oh, this is kind of like, I don't know about this kind of thing. So I think the actual kills themselves are different than just a monster killing somebody, right? If a monster just walks up and eats somebody, and or steps on somebody or something, that's one thing. But these are, like we mentioned, up close and personal. This is someone taking
mhm,
a sharp object and cutting open your body, and the camera like looking at the gore coming out. That's not something that we normally see in day-to-day life. I mean, maybe paramedics see that kind of stuff and people in the healthcare industry, but generally speaking, that is an inherent fear that most people have. No one wants to be cut from their stomach up their chest. No one wants it. No one wants to see it, but yet we're compelled to. So I think the artistry of the gore itself and the effects would be something that I look for specifically in a slasher.
Yeah, the one thing that you'll hear me say, and you just said it, Matt, too, a lot on this show is, I do like a fun score when I watch slasher films. Like, how much fun that I can pick any horror film and watch it if I want to be scared or anything like that. And sometimes I just want to sit down and watch something that's just fun. And that's where a slasher film comes in for me. Is there's not really a scare factor to a lot of those films, but some of them are just like a ton of fun and a 90-minute good time. So that's another reason that I like to sit down and watch these kind of films. I was going through the list that you sent out, the list of 500, to kind of look through, and I wanted to talk about a little bit really quick about what a horror or what a slasher film. I made a comment about, like, there's a ton of films in here that they're not slasher films. They're in a whole different world of their own, and what they fit a lot of the slasher tropes, but they're just like not. I wouldn't count them as a slasher film. And anything that's like home invasion, like The Strangers and Hush were two films on that list that I would have never counted.
Why wouldn't you consider them slasher films?
Well, when you go off of our list, it doesn't hit. To me, it doesn't hit quite a few things. So yeah, like in The Strangers, there's masked killers. I get it, but there's no real body count in Hush really at all. I think there's like two. Yeah. So then you go back to when you talk about body count, what counts? Like, what's the number? What's the number when you talk about a high body count in a horror in a slasher film? what's that number? Is if it's 2, then those films count. If you got to hit, like, what number do you have to hit before you go, that was a high enough body count, that film counts? You know what I mean? So that list actually brought a
Yeah.
bunch of questions into my head.
What I think's interesting is like the body count. Like, there's a film called April Fool's Day. Is that a slasher film? I don't think anyone actually dies in that. The whole point is it's like it's a joke at the end. Like, it's all been set up, even though the film itself is showing people die throughout the course of it. Heather, I'm going to ask you, when do you look at stuff like The Strangers and Hush, these kind of like home invasion things? Maybe The Purge could be like the first Purge movie could be considered something like that, where it is people in masks who are, terrorizing people and things. Do you think that those fit within what we ourselves have kind of defined as a slasher, or is it like way back in the day when the Supreme Court was like, I can't define pornography, I just know it when I see it, sort of thing?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that is really questionable. Like, just because someone's wearing a mask doesn't mean that it's a slasher. I kind of feel like no, because like we were talking a little bit before we started here, um, would you consider Pennywise a slasher? Because it's okay, he presents himself as a humanoid creature, right?
Yeah,
So we know him as a human. Of course, we find out later he is not, but he's wearing a mask. He's a clown. So is that a slasher?
he's killing people isolated, in
He's
unique and
killing a
creative
lot of
ways.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, unique, creative ways. He's, causing fear. He's preying on their fears like Freddy does. So, would that person be considered a slasher? I don't know. You could arguably say lots of things are slashers if you go based off of wearing a mask or not. Um, but yeah, that's
it's hard.
interesting.
Yeah, it's
It
hard.
is.
It's hard. Josh, what do you think about the Pennywise thing? Would you consider Pennywise a slasher?
Uh, no, I don't think I'd consider that a
Mhm.
slasher either. Um, I
Because
would
he's not
consider,
about
I
death or
honestly, in
death.
a weird way, I would consider the It films a creature feature. That's what I would
Yeah,
consider it.
true. I
So,
mean, true. I mean, if you
um,
think about it, he's an alien,
yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hmm
So maybe like the idea that we have to be human would be
hmm
integral
yeah.
to what a slasher is. Um, Even though you could have a monster movie that uses the tropes of a slasher
hmm
film
hmm
to present
Right.
its villain, but ultimately, the fact that it's not like a human or was a human previously and hasn't evolved to something
hmm
else, could be an interesting, you know,
Right.
requirement for a definition.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's and please, anyone watching this, leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think that defines what a slasher is, because I think as we go through this show and we start watching movies, things are going to morph and evolve, right? So if you're looking at proto slashers from the 60s and 70s, like the Italian giallo films and whatnot, we're going to talk about Mario Bava's Bay of Blood on an upcoming episode, and some people say that's absolutely a slasher, and other people say no, it just created a template for all the gory, crazy deaths that slashers would take. Then you
Mhm.
have stuff like Torso, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original film, a slasher? I don't know if it's a slasher film. There's a whole
Mhm.
family dynamic that's going on in there. It's not just one dude, right? Um,
However, Scream, there's multiple.
yes.
So does that mean it's
Yeah.
not a slasher?
Yeah, yeah. And so my point being is like, as I think Halloween, we can all agree Halloween kind of kick-started the late
Mhm.
70s, 80s slasher thing, right? John Carpenter's Halloween
Mhm.
kind of set the template. Even though there were films before that, you could argue Black Christmas, Torso, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Bay of Blood, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but from, there at a certain point in time, you couldn't just have a dude going around killing people, because at a certain point audiences want something new, right? So then you evolve it to a supernatural sort of killer, like the Freddy
Mhm.
Kruegers of the world. There's plenty of 80s horror movies that deal with supernatural killers that are running around doing the same things that a slasher film that Michael Myers is kind of doing.
Mhm.
And then you get into like the postmodern stuff once when Scream comes around, or even Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite Elm Street movies. He did that before Scream, and that whole thing is a meta conversation on Freddy in the
Mm-hmm.
real world as a slasher. Then I know one of the films that you have on your list that we're going to talk about in upcoming week is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. That's another meta postmodern sort of slasher sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so you see filmmakers over time take that. Okay, here's our traditional, but I can't do the same thing. Oh, I gotta keep adding a piece to it. And by
Mm-hmm.
adding a piece to the slasher subgenre, what it was acknowledged were the rules or what defined it, it starts making slasher films more, right? So it's like, okay, well, um, slasher film A set the template, but then slasher film Z has expanded on it and made it much bigger. So now all the things under Z are in that umbrella, and are they all now slashers? So it's going to be an interesting conversation for us to have over the weeks as we talk about these, just to give people out there who are watching an idea of the episodes that we have coming up soon that we're going to talk about. I mentioned the Jester. We're going to talk about Mario Bava's Bay of Blood. We're going to be doing Jolly Roger Massacre at Cutter's Cove, which is an early Asylum film before, when they were still making their own intellectual property. Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which was Heather's selection, along with A Nightmare on Elm Street from Wes Craven. And then Hatchet is one that Josh is a big fan of, and I love the first Hatchet. I'm iffy on the sequels, but I love the first Hatchet a lot. So we're going to be talking about all of those films in the coming week. So again, stab the like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because we don't know when a new episode will drop. But let's talk about our favorite slasher films. So what I kind of wanted to do is, for anybody out there watching this show in the future, when we are talking about each of these slasher films from our own perspective, I think it's valuable to know where each one of us are coming from. Like, what's our personal foundation of our favorite slasher films? Mine might be completely different than Josh's and Heather's. Heather's might be completely different than Josh and I's. But I think it'd be cool for the audience out there to at least have a base understanding of like where we're each coming from. Now, Heather, you wrote 11. Josh, how many did you have?
I mean, I wrote down, I think I have 7 or 8.
Okay, I wrote down 9.
I put down alternates because
Okay. Well, let's just
I like
run
Yeah, I
through.
did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just run through whatever we've got. Heather, we'll start with you. We'll have you do your first, 11, 10, 9. Yeah, do your first 2, and then we'll just swap off and on till we get down to 1. So,
Okay.
your number 11 and why it's on your list.
I'm gonna put this out there. I'm gonna say Jason X, and the reason why is not the movie itself. Okay, not like the whole thing. I don't want to say it's hot garbage, but some of it's pretty hot garbage. I mean, we're talking Jason in space, but the ice death.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they probably like blew most of their budget just on that, because it's so good. So for me, some of these 11 are just moments. There's things
That's
that I'm
fair.
like, wow, I've got to reference it. So
That's a great kill.
that's what.
Sometimes all you need is a memorable moment to make a slasher
Yeah.
film stick in your head and make people like it,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
an
Right.
amazing kill. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I like that movie, by the way.
I will jump to now. This is okay. There's probably gonna be some hate on this. I'm not putting it lower because I don't necessarily like it. It's just that, ironically, as an effects person, you would think that I would gravitate towards the most gory of things, but oftentimes I sometimes think less is more because your brain can go way over the top than what you can see. It's not that I don't like the Terrifier, it's just it's typically not where I go. So we'll put that one on the list.
So you are putting Terrifier on your list.
Yeah, I'm putting it on the list
Okay.
because it's got quite a bit. I mean, it's got intense kills, pretty intense.
Oh, for sure.
Is it something that I'm like, oh yeah, I want to watch that one
So
again?
you're putting the
But
original Terrifier on there, not the
Yeah.
sequels. Okay.
That's another question. When it comes to sequels, we know who the killer is because the art is there, right? But once you know who the killer is, then you lose kind of the mystery. So is the original always the better? I don't know.
I mean, I feel like with films like Terrifier, the point of making the sequels was not to continue that story. It was how can they one up themselves on every single one of those deaths.
Yeah.
That was it. As far as I'm concerned, Terrifier, the original, had one of the craziest kills on the planet.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the second or the third one really ever touched that kill. So, it's not even because they did it first; it's because they did it best. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, Josh, I'm going to go to my number 9, and Heather will do her number 9. So make sure you have an extra one to get to 9, so we can go back and forth on it. So my number 9.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude, figure out another slasher. I know you like slashers. You can find one more that you like.
I'll give you some of mine.
Yeah. Okay, so my number 9. Again, a lot of these, other than my number 1, they can be interchangeable. Essentially, these are just slashers that I personally love and have always loved. My number 9 is a film called Popcorn. Have either one of you seen Popcorn?
I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
Before the horror of Halloween. Before the fear of Friday the 13th. Before the evil of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Before them all, there was... Now, 15 years later, he's back.
Fucking awesome.
So I know. Yeah, I know of it.
Yeah, directed by Mark Harrier and Alan Ormsby. It takes place in a movie theater. If either one of you watch this movie, you're going to be like, I can see the influence that this film had on Matthew. I can see a lot of it. It's got a really cool killer in it. I don't want to spoil it because it does have a mystery. Jill Schoelen is in it, Scream Queen of the 80s. It's fantastic. Actually saw it a few years ago at this point. I say not too long, but COVID screwed up all my years. This was the Alamo Drafthouse up in Omaha did Dismember the Alamo. And it was a movie marathon of horror films. And there was a mystery movie. And this was the mystery movie that they showed. And I was like... orgasmic. I couldn't believe it because I'd never seen Popcorn in the theater. So Popcorn is my number 9. Fantastic. Put it on your list, guys, because it's awesome. All right, Heather, you're number 9.
Or do you want to jump to? Oh, jump to me next. Okay.
Yep.
Because of the crazy twist ending, Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to Sleepaway Camp. Someone is watching you.
Hey, Bava, Reba!
Someone is waiting for you. Someone wants to scare you to death. Sleepaway Camp. You won't be coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know who the killer is. It's the entire time, and when you see that ending, you're like mind blown.
Yep. And that's a film with the killer's no mask. You see no mask on that killer.
Yep.
It's just hidden from the camera, like the person who's actually doing the killing. That's a great one. You're going to be surprised by one that's coming up on my list, I think, Heather.
Okay.
Josh, you're number 9.
I'm still looking for a couple more. So I realized as we were talking about like our what makes a slasher, and I was looking at my list, and I was like, I all of my whole list is like against 90% of what we wrote down for our list. So
are you failing at the show? Are you failing at the show?
There's no failing.
Because I feel like they all fit in some way. So because you made me pull one out my ass, Matt, I am going to throw down just as like an option, Ty West film X. And I'm going to count it. There's no masked killer in those films, but there are human killers in those films. It is a group of kids that go out, or 20-year-olds.
Yeah, let's hope they're not kids in that movie. Let's hope.
They are not kids. Young adults.
Of age. Of legal age.
Yes. Jesus Christ, Matt. They're in their 20s, maybe. We'll say that. In an isolated area. And there's some cool, like, there's some cool little, like, moments and deaths in that film. Like I said, what Ty West did with that trilogy alone, I'm a fan of the trilogy, but of the three, I always kind of went against what everybody else thought. I think X is the best of that trilogy. So, pulled one out. I'm going to go with X.
That's fun. I like Pearl.
I would argue that there is a mask because without giving too much away, they're masking who their true self is.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. You're right, Heather. That does that. Yeah.
Because it's an unlikely person. They're like, what?
Yeah, for sure.
Who's the killer? So yeah, they're masking themselves.
Okay, so I think I'm at number 8. I think it's to me now. I am going to pick the 1981 original film, not the remake, even though I like the remake of this movie. Directed by George Mihalka, Canada's best slasher film, My Bloody Valentine. The original. I love the look of the killer in that. I love the death scenes in that. It's got this gritty, grimy nastiness, a mean streak to that original film. I actually really like a lot of the horror remakes that came out in the early 2000s, that 2000 2012-ish time frame. Like I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, the Ring remake, House of Wax. I like the My Bloody Valentine remake. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there that horror fans just disregarded out of some sort of, well, you can't remake great films. Sure you can. Hollywood's been doing it for a million years. You can remake great stuff. But I really love that original My Bloody Valentine. I love just going down into the mines and the lighting of it and everything. And the fact that something that we forgot to mention that's important to many slashers is it takes place on a specific holiday, right? Holidays, whether it's Halloween or Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or Christmas. There's plenty of Christmas slashers, right? So it's got that really cool holiday component to it that I'm a big fan of. So my number 8 is My Bloody Valentine. To you, Heather.
Okay. All right. So one would say I was told when I was talking to my family, this isn't a slasher, but I would argue that it is. It's just that it's that pulling down the veil. Cabin in the Woods. Because
Great pick.
we are also the killers. We are the slashers. We are wanting this to happen. Yes, it's the Buckner family. It's no different than a Jason going around, but it's a family, sure. But I would say that because of how it all goes down, that one's a slasher. Now, sure, if it was the unicorn, which would have been freaking awesome, but if it was the unicorn coming around and killing them, that would have been pretty cool. Not a slasher.
Yeah.
But
it uses a lot of the tropes. It basically uses the tropes of the slasher and plays on. That's a good pick. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Good one.
Again, I had to pull another one. So I thought about what films I saw as a kid that had an effect and really like put some fear into me. And Freddy is scary, and Michael Myers was terrifying, but the old serial killer, the old killer that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, was Tony Todd as Candyman.
Interesting.
And I'm going to count it. I love killers with a good backstory also. And I thought he had a really not great, but there was a good backstory to that killer and how he kind of became what he became. And when Matt was talking about remakes, the remake of Candyman, is also really fantastic. So anybody that hasn't seen that, I would chase that as well. But Tony Todd as the Candyman made a lasting impression on me, and the image of that hook still, you know,
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Please go
Right.
see Final Destination Bloodlines. It's awesome, and he has a great kind of final, um, nice shout out to the fans. I think that really supported him. So that's really cool. Okay, my number 7. This is okay. So it's my number 7 slasher. But if someone was going to press me on my top 10 just personal favorite horror movies of all time, this would be on it. And I don't care if people laugh at me about it. I love this movie, and that is the original Child's Play, directed by Tom
Yeah.
Holland.
Great.
I fucking love this movie, and I think that Brad Dourif is incredible. If we're looking like he's quote unquote not in a mask, but the mask is the Chucky doll, right? Going around killing people. It scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. We talk about how a lot of these slasher films aren't really scary, but when you're young and they hit you in when you're like 8, 9, 10 years old, they can be very terrifying before you can become old and jaded and you realize the world sucks anyway. Come on, Chucky, just kill me and get it over with because I don't want to be on this planet in this timeline anymore. So Child's Play, I adore everything about this, and I think Chucky is one of the greatest horror icons. Freddy's not even around anymore, guys. They're still making Child's Play movies. They're still
Yeah.
making Child's Play movies, and
Franchise.
we don't get Freddy. We don't even get Jason. We don't. I mean, I know there's been rights disputes and stuff, but Chucky has just been one of those horror icons that just lasts forever, and I think it's iconic. So Child's Play is my number 7. I consider it a slasher
Yeah.
Nice.
And minus the remake, I feel like that's a franchise that never really burnt out. Like I never got tired of watching Child's Play movies ever. Like, and they made a lot of them. So
yeah, they got kind of crazy jumping the shark towards the end, but they were still good.
Yeah,
they were still good fun.
They're fun.
Yeah. So okay, this one might be divisive, but I think okay. So again, it fits a lot of the criteria. It's humorous though. It's Dale and Tucker versus Evil. And the thing that I think is hilarious about this is because it's like them seeing the kids saying these people are crazy. It's a suicide cult, and they're looking at them thinking, "Oh God, these are the killers." And I think it's pretty funny. Just if you think about it in a whole, how many times have people caused their own deaths in these movies? We already mentioned it. If they would stay together, they probably would have been okay. But how many of them have caused their own deaths for, oh, I'll be back in a minute? Don't say that. Just don't say that. You're causing your own death. So I put although it's funny, it has all of the little pieces, even the harbinger of death. So
that is our buddy Greg's favorite horror film. He watches it every October. And it's got that great wood chipper kill in it. So,
oh yeah,
good pick. Yeah,
he jumps right in. They're committing suicide. Yeah,
great movie. Good pick. Josh, you're number 6.
Yeah, this is where I break my own rule, and I don't even care. I wrote. Oh, shut up. I wrote down. And it was on the list, but again, I questioned a bunch of things, but I wrote it down anyway because I love this movie. It's You're Next, which I thought was a really great movie.
Oh, okay.
And it has a bad ass final girl in that movie. Like, badass final girl in that movie. And yeah, like, it takes place. It's not really home invasion, so I'm not going to call it that. It's got some cool kills in there. Shut up, Matt. It's not. They're not. There's no there's kind of a home invasion there, but it's not the whole thing. Doesn't matter. Regardless, isolated house. Kind of a cool little twist in there. And like I said, I'm super happy with the badass final girl in that film. So It's just kind of a kick-ass movie. So I dig it. Break my own
That's
rules.
fine. That's fine, man. Rules are meant to be broken, right? Anything can be a
Yeah.
slasher. That's fine. That's fine. So my number six, which might end up on Heather's list, maybe potentially. This is one of two films directed by Joseph Zito that are in my favorite slasher list. The other one will be at my number 3 spot, but this one is Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. This is the one where everything comes together, right? You got Tom Savini doing the effects. You've got I think this is, if I was going to distill what do I want in a Friday the 13th movie, this is what I want. And incidentally, I think the Friday the 13th remake is not awful. That came out, 2008, 2009, whatever it is. But Friday the 13th Part 4, I just love it. I love Corey Feldman in it. I love the characters in it. I think Jason is, respect given to Kane Hodder, but I think Jason is at his most sort of scary in this one. And I just this is like the perfect amount of Friday. This is what I want from a Friday the 13th movie. So Part 4, the final chapter, is my number 6.
Yeah, that was on my list. That was why I have Moments, the Crispin Glover kill.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
In the hand, right into the face.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, just like
Super cool.
Perfect.
Love Tom Savini.
Yeah. Okay, so I also have Child's Play, but I have Child's Play. I have 1 and 2, but I have 2 on there because that melting scene.
Oh yeah. Child's Play 2
God.
is oftentimes what people think is the best one. Like, a lot of people
It's
Child's Play 2.
nasty, like the melting and the the blood and pus, just like everything. It's nasty. So me looking at it on effects level, I'm just like, it's so reminiscent of Indiana Jones and the melting face, and like how they used wax. Like, I'm not sure. I haven't looked into how they did all of the different effects. Maybe they used wax for that as well. Maybe they just melted plastic, but I like to look into the behind the scenes on how they do things too. So that's probably one of them. I'll have to one day just read about it and see how they did all that stuff. So
that original.
I also get more. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. That original Child's Play trilogy, super underrated. Underrated. It's so good. Even Child's Play 3, that finale when he's getting his face lopped off and stuff, and then the military stuff. It's awesome. It's so good.
Yeah.
So
right. Good. Yeah. I give a lot of points to films that that rely on practical effects more.
Yeah.
I mean, there is definitely a place for CG work, and I think there can be a good marriage of it. But if it's done practically, even if it's kind of ghetto, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the easier they do something, the better it seems.
Horror fans put a premium on slasher films that use practical effects, because that's where the great effects artists that we know and love in horror made their bones in the 80s, was slasher films. And it's so great to be able to see an effects artist like your work, Heather, when you put something like, Jesus, I could never do something like that. That looks amazing on film. It's awesome. Horror fans look at that, they respect the artistry of it, and when it's just not the same when there's a computer thing. When we end up talking about Hatchet, that's what I love about Hatchet. It's like practical effects, and they're incredible. So yeah, all right, cool. Yeah. Child's Play 2, nice. You're up, Josh. Don't fuck this up.
Since we're talking about Kane Hodder and practical effects and Hatchet, that is on my list, nice and high. First of all, I like Victor Crowley as a villain just in general. Again, another villain with kind of a sad backstory, but that movie had DIY also written all over it. They were doing their effects out of their grandmother's garage. They were just a group of filmmakers that went out and just put their dug their feet in and went. And they told a really cool story. And I'm not just a fan of, I'm a fan of the trilogy, really. Not a huge fan of Victor Crowley, that fourth one, but that first three those first 3 Hatchet movies told a complete through story that all went together very nicely. Instead, all the kills are like super rad, super gory, a ton of fun, and that's just a film that inspired me to make another film that I made. And my own trilogy, and it's just that will be a go-to film for me. When I just need to put something on to have a little fun, Hatchet's it for me. So
yeah, very
Hatchet.
cool film, and we will talk about that in a few weeks, folks. So hit that like and subscribe. You'll hear Josh wax poetic about his love of Hatchet. Okay,
Yeah.
my number 5. I'm gonna go Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. So I'm not a huge fan of Halloween 2. And Halloween 3 obviously does not have Michael Myers in it. Season the Witch, it's a completely different thing. Halloween 4, because I'm not gonna bury the lead. Halloween's gonna be in my number 1, guys. But Halloween 4, when I saw it, to this day, I think it is an incredible slasher film. It's completely overlooked because the vast majority of all Halloween movies are trash. But Halloween 4 is really, really good. It's got quotable lines. It's the introduction of Danielle Harris into the franchise. It's just the only thing I hate about Halloween 4 is Michael Myers' mask. It just looks like shit. But the film
Mm-hmm.
itself is really, really solid. Has some cool kills in it. So that's my number 5, Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers.
All right. In my next spot, I have Scream.
Oh yeah.
I just really enjoy it. It's again, that was another thing that we didn't bring up earlier was quotability of the film.
Yeah.
Just remembering those moments and quoting those lines. There's always at least 1 or 2 lines per movie that you're just gonna say randomly with your friends, and everybody knows what you're talking about.
I'll be right back.
They have it's the tag, it's built right into it, the tagline, just some of those moments that are just so great, and the ad-libbing, my parents, my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me,
Yeah.
just these things, Matthew Eller. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
Memorable
he's
killers too. Memorable
yeah,
killers.
I know, and it was one of those things that you see it, and I may be wrong because I again don't have as deep roots in horror, but is this the first time that it's revealed that there's 2 killers for a slasher? I don't know.
Scream is great. I should have put it on my list. I
Mhm.
completely forgot about it. So, but I love that movie to death, and
Yeah.
I'm actually a huge fan of the entire franchise. I think
Mhm.
I think all of the Scream films are either solid to great, and Scream
Mhm.
4 could have been incredible had they had the balls to actually kill off Nev Campbell, but they didn't. But
Yeah.
yeah, great selection, Josh. Your
Well,
number
because
4.
I don't have films to really sacrifice, I'm going to piggyback off of Heather because I had Scream on my list. And, she covered, a lot of the reasons why it was on my list, but really, it's a film that I watched that I really remember, like the first time really remember a twist at the end of that movie. What I would count as a twist. That the 2 killers, who they were, they kind of, did a great job, kind of throwing you off through the whole movie. And every time you thought you had it figured out, you kind of, you did it. It also had a really great opening, final girl in that movie with Drew Barrymore, and that whole opening scene with the popcorn and, setting up who the killers were, I thought was really great. And really, a lot of people will say that Wes Craven kind of saved a dying subgenre with Scream. Like, things just were not interesting horror wise, slasher wise in the 90s. And when Scream came
And that
along,
came through with
it kind of revived, you know, what the slasher film used to be and could be. So you got to give some credit there also to Wes Craven. So Scream.
For sure.
Yeah.
Great selection. My number 4 is my personal favorite Freddy film, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4: The Dream Master, directed by Rennie Harlan. I love this Elm Street movie. I love the death scenes in it. I love it when the girl's in the classroom and she falls asleep and Freddy's like, "You want to suck face?" and he just sucks her completely dry.
Wanna suck face?
No.
I love the girl who turns into the cockroach and she gets stuck in the roach motel. I think this has yeah, I think this has one of the best, I'm going to argue, and you can disagree with me in the comments below. I think this has the best final girl in the Elm Street franchise. I don't think it's Heather Langenkamp. I think it's the girl who plays Alice in this episode. I think she's the best final girl in the entire Elm Street franchise. Much respect to Heather Langenkamp because she was the OG and she's come back in some subsequent. But I really love how creative this one is. I love that this is right on the line for where Freddy is still kind of scary, but he's not quite as campy as he's going to be. Like he has some one-liners, but it's not over the top. So Elm Street 4 is my number 4.
So again, it's hard with me for Friday the 13th because there's so many memories or like memorable parts. So I'm gonna bring up uh let's see, what was I? Part 3, because that's when he gets his mask from Shelley.
Yep.
So, it paved the way for everything from the future and everybody getting these masks, and they could be Jason too, and making mods of masks, and just like it fueled a whole, like, just subgenre of like cosplays and everything just going on down the line. So,
I
and
was
it did
Jason
have
as a
some
kid
good
for
kills.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it also had some pretty awesome kills. It had some interesting ones too, but 3D, I mean, come on.
Oh yeah,
3D.
3D. I love seeing these movies in
Whoa.
3D.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Friday
Yeah.
3, awesome. All right, Josh, you're number 3.
Here's one where the next two is where my list gets kind of weird, and I'd love to be argued with. So my next pick is again questionable, but it's on the list, so I counted it because it's a film that I really like, and it's a film called ATM. If anybody's seen it,
Oh, I have seen it. Yep.
I think ATM is really great. Again, kind of fits a little bit of the mold. There's no real mask. The guy wears a coat the whole time. But it takes place like just the mood of that film, and again isolated, basically one location, 90% of the film. Kind of a cool killer, but again doesn't have a lot of body count in there. But again, I'm counting it. It hits some of our list, and it's again a throwback film that I'll go back to really anytime if I need something on the background that's just kind of cool to watch. So my pick is ATM.
Okay. Have you ever seen a movie called Phone Booth with Colin Farrell?
I did see that. Yeah, I have seen
That's
that.
like the horror version of Phone Booth to me. Is what ATM feels like. And you might like a film called P2 if you like ATM. So
I
it's
know
about a
that
girl.
movie. I've never seen it.
You should check it out. It's
Or,
basically a girl
yeah,
being hunted in a parking garage. It's pretty cool. Okay, my number
it just
3. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead, please, please.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead.
Just from a filmmaker standpoint, I love those films that are just real simple and real easy. Nothing too crazy to them, but effective. So that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that was very profound. So thank you, Josh.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, number 3 for me, the other Joseph Zito film on my list is The Prowler. Have either of you seen The Prowler?
I'm aware of it,
Oh
but I
gosh,
haven't seen
I
it.
can't believe Josh hasn't seen The Prowler. The Prowler, awesome, great Tom Savini kill. There's an amazing kill with this girl in the shower with a pitchfork that Tom Savini does. It's incredible. But The Prowler is one of these really cool, grimy. I don't know if it was shot in New York. It looks like it was shot in New York in the '80s. Super grimy, mean-spirited slasher films, and I just love everything about it. I think the look of the killer is really neat and interesting. It's got a military sort of component to it. So I would recommend you guys put that on your list. Go check out The Prowler. That's my number 3.
So I am going to go with Halloween because it started it, like, wow. What can you say? It's Michael Myers. It's quotable. He has a mask. I mean, what the mask actually is, but the way that they change it just makes you go, wait a minute, that's a what mask? What? The kills, Jamie Lee Curtis, just it's good. I love it. So that again, my list doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily like in order. Some of them are kind of toe and toe, but that one is up on a number 2 spot
For
for a
sure.
reason. So
All right,
mhm.
Halloween. I might have more to say about that one later. Josh, you're number 2.
My number 2 is 2007 Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Oh,
Um,
shut your mouth. You're off the show.
um, my number 2 is High Tension. High Tension.
Oh, okay.
Anybody seen that? I like a lot of his other stuff too, but High Tension hits for me. And again, it's another one of those films that you just can't get ahead of. Again, a cool twist. Not a mass killer. It's just um, no spoiler, but it is just a regular, not a regular looking guy, but just creepy looking guy that's just hunting down these two girls. But it's got some really cool, brutal kills in it. And again, a real twist of the knife at the end. So, and a really cool shot at the end also.
Yep.
So, High Tension is
Cool.
my next pick.
I haven't seen that. It's part of the French new wave of horror
Yep.
films in the early
Yep.
2000s, where you had Inside and all of these really gory, graphic stuff. I haven't seen it in a long time. I'll have to revisit that one.
It holds up. It's really great.
My number 2 is Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers. I love how ridiculous and over the top this slasher film is. I'm not a big comedy guy. Like, I'm generally not into comedy. But this is a slasher film that I genuinely laugh as I'm watching, and intentionally because it's supposed to be funny. I love the fact when, like, that girl who's kind of like the slutty girl, she's banging that guy in the woods, and they finish. She's like, "Hey, you don't got AIDS, do you?"
Listen, you don't have AIDS or anything, do you?
No.
Great. See ya.
And it's so hilarious. It's just so hilarious. But yeah, so I think Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers would be my number 2.
Back to me. Okay, this is my number 1, right?
Yeah.
I gotta go with A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, because that was the first one, the first horror, other than the whole alligator farm, whatever that was, when I was just a wee little child. Yeah, that was the first one I saw. It was, I know, I'm gonna have to find it. My grandma was like, "Are you sure you're supposed to be watching this?" Yeah, hilarious. Anyway, it was the first one I watched. I spent the night with one of my friends. We watched it. The ingenuity, just like having a spinning room. What the hell? Like, that's just intense.
Yeah,
Like
looks cool.
the way to do these things, it just the bled the I can't talk anymore. I'm like so verklempt over the whole situation. The bleeding bed, like just the
Yeah.
way that they did these things, it's so insane. And it seems like it would be not simple, not simple, only simple if you have money, but just, when you're watching it, you think, how is that even possible? How are they having her walk on the ceiling? Then you see the behind the scenes and you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? That's so easy. It it was um definitely eye-opening for me, and I think that's what planted the seed in my mid to late teens where I saw the artistry in these types of things. And so oftentimes when I'm watching a horror movie, sure, it's the jump scares that get me more than the kills. Sure, there's some things that, like, anything that involves eye stuff. Shut up, Matt. Don't make me don't make me watch things with eye stuff. But
Lucio
no,
Fulci films for you to
I
watch.
know, like, just like stabbing in the eyes. But other than that, watching this stuff, it makes me think, how did they do it? Um, is that possible on a cheaper scale? If only I could get to that level, these types of things. So my number one pick, the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
I mean, it's unassailable. It's a great movie.
Mhm.
Great movie. All right, Josh, your
The
number one.
poster alone was
Oh yeah.
intense. Some of the simple things. Oh, anyway, I could go on forever. Okay.
Yeah, my last pick on here, and again, I think it's a whole franchise that holds up for the most part. Um, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, I remember watching that film when I was a kid. How it's like the marketing for that film and how it sold that film is, this really happened and all those things really stuck. And the sound of the first time you hear that chainsaw go off, it scared the shit out of me as a kid. And Leatherface. Ooh, I couldn't say it. Leatherface. Barely got that out. It's just an icon. It's a cool looking character, and that is what I'm sticking to.
Okay, fair. So both of you have gone with like all-time classic horror films, and I'm going to be right there with you. Of course, no surprise, my favorite slasher is Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. It is the film that made me want to make movies. When I was in college, I did a frame by frame breakdown of the entire film, and I wrote, a 30-page paper on how every frame of that was put together. I've seen it probably well over 100 times. I have the thing practically memorized. This is just one of those things where it's the fundamental nature of what a slasher film is distilled to its purest form. And what's really interesting, when I always tell people about it, and it's similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When you talk to people, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so violent, it's so bloody and gory. It's like, no, there's like hardly any blood in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. There's like one little bit of blood in the original Halloween. They were, Toby Hooper, John Carpenter, they were able to make these slasher films so well that people thought in their own minds they were seeing things they weren't actually seeing, and that's a very rare thing for a filmmaker to be able to do. And in those films, these filmmakers were able to capture the essence of that and what a slasher is. So even in a film that basically has no blood in it, Halloween, it still feels like there's blood all over. That opening sequence when the subjective camera and he walks up, he's got the mask on, you just see the knife stabbing down, you see a little bit of blood, and you follow like, well, who the hell is this, and pulls the mask off. It's a little kid. I was blown away when I was a kid. I'd never seen a little kid, an 8-year-old kid, go stab his sister to death on film before. Talk about an opening sequence that really just blows you away. And I was hooked from there. And the mythology of Michael Myers, where he just stares, he doesn't speak, he's just stared, he's waiting to escape at the perfect time to go hunt down the rest of these people. It's just perfect. It's a perfect horror film, in my opinion, and a perfect slasher film, and my all-time favorite slasher film. So there you have it, folks. That's a little bit where we come from. So, in terms of what we like in our slasher films, I think there's a lot of overlap. But I was actually surprised on the sheer amount of differences we had. It wasn't like we had 5, 6, 7 of all the same. We had a very
Mhm.
eclectic eclectic variety of what we got. So that is the first episode of Saturday Night Slashers. I want to let everyone know, hit that like and subscribe again. Hit the notification bell because I have no idea when I'll post these. It could be, random times. But in the future, we are going to be talking about a number of films. We're going to talk about The Jester, which is a recent kind of internet phenomenon that blew up into its feature film. And then the stuff that I mentioned before, I don't even know where I wrote down. A Bay of Blood, Jolly Roger, The Massacre at Cutter's Cove, Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Hatchet. And leave a comment down below if there's a specific slasher film you'd like us to watch and cover. It does not have to be some famous one. Give us something that you think we've never seen before and that we'll want to check out. So with that, I want to ask Heather. Well, first I want to say, Heather, thank you for all the wonderful graphics for the show, because if you like those graphics, folks, that's all Heather's amazing graphic design, and it's spread all across Outpost Unknown. So all those shows, the graphics are designed by Heather. But Heather, you were anxious coming into your first episode. How you feeling now that it's over?
I feel good. I knew that you guys would not let me fail, not let me flounder.
Josh can fail, but you can't. So you don't have to worry about it.
No, you guys are like my brothers, so I knew you guys wouldn't give me too much guff if I sounded stupid, but
You did not sound stupid. You sounded great. So with that, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll be back at an oncoming Saturday.